When I look at this drawing for C7, I can go ahead and assume that I'm not going to be able to start by doing a rectangle or really a line at 1, 1 in order to get where this base point is. But what I can do is create a rectangle and then offset up to get where these lines are going to be. So what I have to do is figure out what the overall width and overall height is, and I'm going to not include this triangle portion. So I know the overall height is 4. In order to find out the overall width, I can just add 3.5 and 1.5 and get 5. So I'm going to go into AutoCAD, and I'm going to start by creating a rectangle. So I'm going to do REC 1, 1, and then I've got to do at 5, 4. Now once I have this done, I've got to go ahead and explode. Hopefully you remember now, anytime that we create a rectangle, the best thing to do is go ahead and automatically explode. Now if I go back to look at my drawing, I've got to figure out how far to offset from the bottom of my drawing, or how far to offset down. I know that the overall distance for the height is 4, and this middle portion is 2. I can subtract 2 from 4 and get 2. And then since I have two sections, 1, 2, I can divide that 2 by 2, and I get 1. So I'm going to go ahead and offset 1. So I'm going to offset up 1, and I'm going to offset down 1. Now, if I go back, I've got to figure out how far to offset to get this line, which is going to be 3.5. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my drawing and offset 3.5. Once I have this done, I can go ahead and hit escape and trim. So I'm going to TR, enter, enter. And you can again select lines individually, or I think it's a lot faster just to draw, just like this, draw boxes. I now have to look and see how to create this triangular portion of my arrow. Once I've determined how to do that, I'll be really all the way done with the drawing and just have to add dimensions. So if you look, the triangle portion is starting at the very bottom base point here and the top right here. And it's going to converge and meet where this center line for the middle of the drawing is. So we need to start by adding this middle line. So I'm going to go back into AutoCAD and I'm going to do L enter. Once I do L enter, you can see if I hover on this side of my drawing, it's actually going to snap to the midpoint, which is exactly what I want. I want to draw a line down the middle of my drawing. So I can go ahead and select where this green triangle is and pull my cursor straight over. Now the distance doesn't matter of this line as long as it's quite a bit past the far right side. If your OSNAP setting for midpoint did not pop up, you could easily offset and find the middle, or just make sure that OSNAP is turned on and that in your OSNAP, midpoint is turned on. Now that we have this line drawn for our center line of the drawing, I can go back and see how we're going to create now our angle part of our drawing. And I can see that the points are going to start at the bottom and the top on the far right side, and that this angle right here is going to be 30 degrees. So I can go ahead and create that now in AutoCAD. So I'm going to do L enter, and from the bottom corner here, I'm going to draw a line now at a certain angle, and that's going to allow me to create my triangle. The real trick here is selecting the correct angle. A lot of students would tell me that I would need to type in 30, but watch my cursor and watch if I go down to around where 30 degrees is. This should not look correct at all. So what students aren't realizing is that from here to here, this is 30 degrees. But look at where the angle is talking about. It's talking about from my cursor down, not from my cursor towards my vertical line that I've drawn. So I've got to make sure that my cursor is pulled so that the distance of the line is past my midpoint. And then if I hit tab, I can type in my angle of 60, which again should make sense because 60 plus 30 is 90. And what I'm looking at right now for my 60 degrees is from here down versus my 30, which is from here up to this vertical line. Now I can do the same thing at the top corner, and I can just hit tab 60. Once I have this done, I can hit escape and trim and get rid of these 3 lines. My new command for today is lengthen, and you'll use this for every drawing that has center lines. So I'm going to do LEN for the command alias for lengthen, hit enter, and now if you look at the bottom, we have a couple different options. I'm going to select delta, so I can either click on delta or type in DE. You always have to select DE or delta for this option, or else this will not work. Now, I know that any drawing that I do that has center lines, that center line has to go 3/8 past the object. So I'm going to type in, when it says enter delta length, I'm going to type in 3/8, and if I select this line here and this line here, and hit escape, I now have a center line that's extended 3/8 past. If I select this line, I can now change this to center line, and it's got the correct spacing, the gaps, everything that a center line should entail. Now if I make sure that my layer is set to dimension, I'm able to go ahead and add my angular dimension. I know that you guys know how to do linear dimensions, so I'm not going to go into that. And I know we've done angular in the past, but this is going to be a little bit different. So if I select angular and select my line here, there's really nothing else to select over here to get an outside or an exterior dimension. So what I've got to do is actually create a line that's going to go down. It really doesn't matter how far because we'll modify the length of this line. I wouldn't do it much farther past the height of my drawing. And then I'm able to select dimension for angular dimension and select my two lines. If you're having issues with selecting it, sometimes zooming in, zooming out will allow you to select it easier, or hit F9 and then you can very easily select anything you need to. Once you're ready to add this dimension and you want it to be able to snap, go ahead and make sure F9 is turned back on for a snap. Now I can go 1, 2, 3. And you can see that right now there is a gap between my dimension and really what we'll consider as the extension line. So if I pull this down, it's still going to have the same issue. So what we need to do is figure out a way to get my extension line right here up all the way to the top of this drawing. So I can go ahead and delete this green line because I just used that to get this dimension. And now watch, if I try to pull this all the way up, it's going to actually make everything disappear. So I'm going to do Control Z to get rid of that. But I can very easily pull this up about midway, pull it up a little bit more, and kind of keep going until it's almost touching. And I will really be fine with this even though it's not a true 1/16 of an inch away, because there's no gap for my extension line. It does go almost all the way up to a 1/16 of an inch away from the object. And now all you have to do for the remainder of this drawing is add dimensions. I will go ahead and tell you that you need to make sure you're including all the necessary dimensions. You need to make sure that you group the dimensions together as well. And please make sure that you include all overall dimensions. So just be really smart about how you dimension this. The book is not correct. Once you have this done, go ahead and insert title block, print, and upload to Schoology.